Can you see it?
Yeah, perfect.
Brilliant. Okay, so yeah, okay, got it. The impact of long COVID on children, young people and their families. So yeah, for anyone who doesn't know who I am Helen from Long COVID Kids, and I run the Scotland branch of the charity. And I'm going to talk to you today about what it's like to have a child with long COVID, the difficulties that families are facing. So obviously this is an enormous topic, which is going to be really hard to fit into 15 minutes. You know, as Nizat just said there, I mean, it can be life-changing. You know, you can be dealing with new disabilities in a child as well, which is incredibly difficult. It is difficult to quantify the impact though, because, you know, each family is different. You know, families come in all shapes and sizes, and each family will have its own unique set of circumstances and challenges. And also each child will experience long COVID slightly differently. So let's go. Why is it not working? Next. Okay, so in our support group, we see clusters of symptoms. So we've got symptoms consistent with PANS, which is what my daughter suffers from. We've got symptoms consistent with ME/CFS, MCAS, and POTS. That is not an exhaustive list. Those are just the main ones that we see. So for example, when you might have a child like my daughter who's suffering with PANS, but not with MCAS or POTS, and then you've got another child who has ME/CFS and POTS at the same time. So they all have different symptoms under the umbrella of long COVID. They are all suffering with fatigue, extreme fatigue, headaches, tummy pains. And then they'll have this other sort of cluster of symptoms on top. So it's very difficult to definitively say the impacts are X, Y, Z, because they're going to differ by child, the age of the child, and the family. So how do I convey the impact of long COVID on a family, ensuring that I keep it inclusive and give a broader perspective? Well, I asked them. They did the job for me. So big slide, lots of words, PowerPoint 101, don't do this. But I did it on purpose, actually, to sort of convey the huge response that I got back to this question. You know, what was the impact on your family? And wow, I was blown away. These are just a few of the responses that I got. And even if you just read one or two of them, you can just feel the frustration and desperation in their words. Many families' lives have been just completely turned upside down in a very real and very devastating way. And we're all just learning now how to deal for a chronically ill child with varying degrees of disability. So the biggest themes that came out of this were not being believed by medical professionals, friends, extended family members, frustration of trying to access services and support because the waiting times can be really, really long. Feelings of grief for the life that their child has lost. Feeling abandoned and isolated. Feeling pressure to increase education attendance. Not all of these children are actually physically able to attend school at the moment. They're not maybe physically able to actually get to the building, let alone learn and retain information. The decline, the cognitive decline, has a huge impact on their ability to actually take in what they're supposed to be learning and retain it. And concerns about the future, that's a big one. You know, will they recover? When will they recover? Will they be able to sit their exams? Is this their life now? Where can we get help? There's just so many unknowns, and it puts an enormous emotional stress on the family. So I'm going to do a few examples. This is Harley. He's so sweet. Harley has had a really rough time of it. He's 7 now. He had COVID in March 2021. He has well-controlled asthma, but he was taken to hospital by ambulance in the acute infection stage. He was struggling to breathe. But almost 12 months on now, and his breathing is still difficult. And he used to love playing football, but he can't do that now. He does try to go to school, but he manages a couple of days a week if he's lucky, and he's just completely wiped out. His other symptoms are mainly nausea, sore muscles, chest pain, dizziness and fatigue. And in that right-hand picture there that you can see, that's where he spends most of his time each day. He lies down because of the dizziness, and it helps stop the nausea. So he's lying there with his wee dog. And on the left-hand side is him before he got COVID. He was very active, happy, cheeky little chappy. And his mom has just said, you know, at the bottom there, we feel so lost and so helpless. They just don't know what to do. A few weeks ago, they all got COVID for the second time, potentially third, they're not sure. Holly's mom was actually really very unwell. She also has asthma. And she was very nearly admitted to hospital. And she was just so anxious because, you know, who would look after Harley and his big sister if she wasn't well enough, because their dad also had COVID. She's not only dealing with her own asthma, she's dealing with Harley, who now has long COVID, mainly respiratory problems, and then her eldest child as well, who is also has an existing condition which needs daily management. So I honestly don't know how she's managing. She is superwoman, that's for sure. Moving on to another child. This is Tilly. She is 14. She had a very mild COVID infection in January 21, so over a year ago now. Don't be alarmed by the video. It's she was just sleeping. She was fine, but we see this a lot as well in the group with the kids. It's quite hard to rouse them from sleep, and it does kind of frighten you, I guess. Anna was like that too for a while. It was really hard to sort of wake her up. She was so completely out of it from the fatigue. And yeah, that's her mom trying to wake her up and just showing, gosh, you know, the fatigue is really intense. She's mainly got POTS symptoms. She's under a pediatric cardiologist. She manages about 2 hours of school every day, which is really great. But now the school are pressuring her to increase her attendance, and they want her back full time, which, as you can see by the video, I mean, it's just not going to happen. It puts so much stress on the family, you know, when there's this pressure to, you know, get to education, and unfortunately their school are not being quite supportive as we would hope. And if she wanted to have, there's no opportunity for home learning or anything at the moment, and they're kind of stuck because her cardiologist won't actually diagnose POTS, but then the school want a letter from the cardiologist to say she has POTS. So, you know, they're kind of stuck in the middle. Where do they go? There's literally rock and a hard place for them. The picture of her up at the top left was taken last summer. Tilly's older sister got married, and that was in Italy. And of course it was her sister, so they were of course going to go, but they knew it was going to be really difficult. They didn't realize quite how difficult, and that's how she spent most of the time when they were in Italy, was curled up asleep on a sun lounger. So yeah, she didn't have the greatest of time there. Jacob, you might have seen Jacob, his mum is on Twitter and regularly updates on his condition. He's one of the more serious cases that we have in the group. He's lost almost all mobility in his legs. You can see in the video there, he's really struggling to walk. It's just such a shame. On the left hand side at the top left, that's him pre-COVID, and he's just, you know, healthy, happy little kid, doing everything kids do. He had COVID in March 21. He had a very mild infection, but it happened really fast. 3 to 4 weeks later, he started getting the long COVID symptoms, the dizziness, chest pains, severe fatigue. And then that's when his legs started to hurt. They were just aching and just painful, non-specific pain in his legs. And within 2 weeks, he was completely unable to bear weight at all.
Hey, Helen, just say, can we 2 minutes, just last one, but continue.
Sorry?
Can we just say if we put a limit of maybe another 2 minutes? Would that
2
be
minutes? Oh my gosh. Right,
Two.
okay.
2, 3, something like that?
Okie dokie. Right, I'll quickly move on. Anyway, so yeah, his mom actually has had to leave her work because she needs to be a full-time carer for Jake now. They need to pay for a private physio because they haven't managed to get any NHS support for that. And they had to sell their rental house to help pay for his care. So all of their savings have gone straight into him and his care. Well, I might skip Anna then because that's mine. But most people, I think most people know his story now anyway. So I'll just say that the video is actually of when we were in the hospital, and her pan symptoms got so triggered by the heat and the noise and the sensory overload from the ward that I had to take her down into the family accommodation where it was nice and cool and quiet. And that's her sort of coming down from a PANS sort of episode. And that you can't hear any sound, but she's doing her tics, and she was like that for 2 hours. So, you know, the reality of it is 24/7 care. You know, there's very little respite for parents. There's, you know, completely life-changing stuff. So I'll just quickly skip on. So you might have seen me spamming this around Twitter. We put everything that I've just said tried to put it into one infographic. And this is what came out. So we've got, you know, government and policymaker. I'm not going to go through the slide because no one wants death by PowerPoint. Healthcare issues with healthcare, mostly surrounding getting the diagnosis. Absolutely nightmare. The physical symptoms themselves, of course, are incredibly challenging every day. The mental health impacts of, you know, the isolation, you know, I mean, we have been stuck in our house for, well, almost 2 years now. We went out last week to the park, and that was the first time we'd actually left the house since the 13th of November, because I went through my pictures on my phone to look because I knew it had been such a long time. And then, of course, the education difficulties, having flexible learning and a supportive school makes all the difference. The impact on the wider family, you know, if they've got any siblings, the employment problem like Victoria, Jacob's mum, lots of families having to go down to one person working and the other person staying at home caring for the child. Right, I think that was 2 minutes. Ta-da, last slide. So I'm just going to plug the new group because we set up a Scotland specific group now. Each country has their own specific group, and I recently set up the Scotland one, so I was a bit late in the game. But if you know anybody who might be struggling with a child with long COVID or suspected long COVID, don't diagnose this because that's impossible to get anyway. Please do signpost them to us, because we are the only charity in the world, as far as I'm aware, who are actually supporting children and their families. And I hope that you can see from what I've just said that they really do need that support, because it is